Hello and welcome to the Romance Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Kelsey Martin, and tonight we are going to be talking about spring romance. Now, that can mean a whole lot of things, and we're going to go in a bunch of different directions. But before we start that, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol Stokes. As Ellis Colton, I am an MM romance writer. I've read romance since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and in many shapes, forms, and genres, and I absolutely love it.
Okay. And Layla.
Hi, I'm Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance pretty much across the spectrum. I have contemporaries, paranormals, rocker boys, biker boys, all kinds of shifters, and pretty much anything in between, including arranged marriage and a little alien crash landing in a cornfield.
Why not? And I'm Gail C. Martin and Morgan Brice. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. So lots of spooky chills and sexy thrills. So let's talk about what, we talk about spring as being the most romantic season. I don't know where you live, but spring is often overcast, wet, and muddy where I've lived. So somewhere people have birds chirping endlessly and the flowering trees are all in bloom and they can still breathe. And I'm just very suspicious that obviously all these people who wax rhapsodic about spring don't have allergies. So let's talk about what is so romantic about spring. Carol?
Well, I think, of course, there's just so much with regrettably the pollen, but the pollen means that the buds are budding, plants are working their way out of the soil. So we're seeing our flowers start to come up in little green, yummy little plants. We're coming out of winter. So things have been dark and cold and snowy, especially I live in New England. So lots of dark, short days and cold and snowy. And so to see the sun is out much more often, beautiful blue sky, puffy little white clouds. Like I said, the flowers, the trees are budding, people are sneezing. We just got our first pollen alert. But it's all very, we can take a breath and we can enjoy being outside again, and we can open our windows. And like I said, in New England, you spend a lot of the winter being very cloistered, unless you go somewhere and ski. But even then, you go outside and you freeze and you come in again. So after spending months where you're really in your house or, in your workplace or whatever, it's really nice to feel the temperatures rise enough to be out and walk and be in the sunlight and, feel like you're getting your vitamin D naturally and all of that. Because you're now past the point of merely surviving, we have brain cells and that can turn to more enjoyable topics like romance. And, as the plants rise through the earth, so does our blood rise up and say, aha, let's take a look around and enjoy ourselves. And, let's have a little romance.
Okay, Layla?
I have lived in some really warm places. My folks were military, so we lived in Florida. We lived on Guam, all places where spring you start heading for the water. Well, I've swum on Christmas before when we lived on Guam because it's warm year round. But as a shifter writer, when you start getting outside and nature is coming alive and the animals that hibernate are coming out and the animals that have been in kind of survival mode are now turning their attention to, it's time to start looking for mates. It's time to start flirting with the other animals. So for the shapeshifter stuff, I love spring because it's just such a flirty season. And it's when, the animals are really just playful. You can watch the squirrels chasing each other around. We're at the zoo the other day and these ducks had invaded the flamingo enclosure. And the ducks were having a little duck battle because there was like two males squabbling over a female. And it just gets you to start thinking about romance, the flirty season. Not to mention, You know, for those of us who love to be outdoors, this is prime mushroom hunting season. And when you want to start having characters do things that are non-traditional, I love that, you know, you can start foraging for wild edibles, you can start looking for mushrooms, you can get the metal detector out. And there's such good outdoor date and picnic ideas that you can have fun with it. Plus, as a biker girl, spring break, you get the rallies, you get things started up, you get on the back of the bike, the weather's warm, even if you have to put on a coat, you can get the bike out and you can start hitting the road. And what a great time to start going on adventures, meeting new people. A lot of my characters are wanderers, and a good chunk of them are motorcycle riders. And they start taking off across the country, and that's usually how they meet that person that was just meant for them. So for me, spring is just always all about getting outside and getting a chance to meet people and getting a chance to play outdoors. And hopefully you're in a place warm enough to get in the water, you know, start getting layers of clothes off and just having a lot of fun with it.
You know, it's funny, you mentioned the layers of clothes. We live in the South and our kids were raised in the South, but my oldest daughter went to a college way up north in the mountains.
Oh,
And one of her concerns, since down here she didn't really need a heavy coat, she always just had cute little, cute little cropped jackets and all that. And I had to buy her like the serious quilted parka. And it was like, how will boys know what I look like? How will they know I've got a figure? And I said, honey, Northern boys know how to, X-ray vision through a parka. They can figure this out. And I said, polar bears mate. Polar bears are chubby and they still get, mates.
Lucky.
So don't worry about this. Northern boys have X-ray vision when it comes to parkas. And that did indeed seem to be true. But I think with spring, yeah, if you can breathe, all the flowers and plants are beautiful. It's nice to get a break in the weather. And the whole world just seems to be coming alive, and now you can go out and do more things. Not that sexy things can't happen while you're watching Netflix on the couch all winter, but isn't it nice to be able to take a walk in the park or to go on a paddle boat or to just, go somewhere other than, inside the house. And especially for someone who's, looking for romance, all winter long, unless it's your UPS driver, you're not really going to meet a whole lot of people. So
And
yeah,
Amazon delivery person.
Amazon delivery person who might figure out you order a whole lot of stuff because he's cute. But yeah, it just opens up your world, and there are all kinds of possibilities, especially when you're talking about meet cutes and people finding love, which is usually where all good romances start. So what do you think is the most romantic idea of a spring date? Carol?
Wow. Definitely being outside. I love eating outside. I love going to restaurants where they have, outside tables or a deck, and you can sit outside and have your drink and just appreciate the trees are getting all green, people walking around. So there's a little bit of people watching to do. I always feel like, not that it's exotic, but it's out of the norm. It's not my house. It's not, even my backyard, which I like to spend time in the summer, but it's like, like you're on the boulevard watching life pass you by, and people are bringing you yummy drinks and food. And so I really like that. Certainly a walk in a really nice garden. We have a really famous rose garden in one of the nearby towns. And it like so many varieties of roses, and they're laid out this way and that way in arches, and it's a very popular place for wedding photos because it's just so beautiful. And that's really a nice atmosphere and a nice environment. You have like colors and life, and it's just so pretty. usually, again, other people around, which is really nice. People and animals frolicking, you know. So those are all like the nice things I think about when I think about a spring date. Not to disregard, of course, the quintessential question in Miss Congeniality of what is the perfect date. And I believe it was a date in April, like April 24th or something, because it's warm enough. You only need a light jacket. So yeah, you can go outside. You don't need the parka. You don't need the boots. You don't have to worry about like slipping on ice and all of those things. You can just, throw on a little sweater and go out. I would actually probably like, because I'm a big Pokemon Go player, and I really like going out for the afternoon to play Pokemon Go. And you're just walking around, and the game gives you something to do and have fun with. But really, half of it is you're just out there walking around and enjoying the soft air and the warm temperatures and the sunlight. And so even that would be a cute little date.
Okay. Layla?
Definitely loading up the bike, loading up a backpack, especially you get that partner on the back who's not maybe an experienced rider. You're getting to take them out for one of the first times. You're always going to find those little outdoor places to eat. So you just hop on the back of the bike in the morning. You kind of watch the sky change all day, and you go from that beautiful sunrise to that brilliant blue, and you just see what you run into, and you might stop and we have a favorite spot up the Root River Run where you can overlook the river, the Mississippi, and we'll go ride up there and watch some of the boats go by, grab some food, have a little picnic, walk a trail, see what plants are blooming. You never know, when you're traveling. I've come across some of the most awesome thrift stores. You can go thrifting, come across some beautiful antique shops and go antiquing. And then, with the parks coming alive, there's always those places where you've got outdoor music. And I am a huge music fan. So you're riding along and you might wander into one of those little spring festivals. Stop at the festival, take in the music, maybe get some festival food, go ride a little bit longer, have a nice dinner. There's some beautiful places with patio seating, great steaks, and shareable meals. That's always a fun one for me. When you go to a place that's got like those cool appetizers, and you've got like the steak tips and the fried pickles and the different things that you can feed each other. Get those cute little bites for dessert, or happen upon a cool bakery where you can, put that in the backpack and have for later, where you've got those little treats you can feed each other and just sit and be flirty and talk. And, riding with someone gives you the chance to not have to talk the whole time, where you can have those quiet moments together. And when you can find somebody that you can really enjoy a quiet moment with, as well as interaction, that's a lot of fun too, especially if you're both creative people. There's nothing in the world like I grew up with musicians and other artists and other writers, where you go rides off somewhere and holy crap, this spot's inspirational, and maybe I'm writing a story and he's writing a song, or even has his guitar strapped along the back of the bike and is playing, and I'm writing, and we're both creating. You're creating together but apart, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So for me, that is like the most perfect date, is anytime I can load up a bike and take off and just see what happens. You let the whole day unfold organically, and no one's got to be stressed about like, did I plan the right thing, or are they going to enjoy this? It's just, hey, let's go see what we see. And each person has the opportunity to be like, hey, stop there. There's the art museum, and you go wander the art museum for a little bit, or hey, stop there, the botanical gardens. You go in and snap pictures and check out the butterflies and the different, things that are blooming. And those are just the perfect kind of dates.
Well, I'm definitely all for antiquers. I love botanical gardens. Where I grew up in that little neck of Pennsylvania that goes up by Lake Erie, spring wasn't really a season. Spring was maybe the day it stopped raining between winter and summer. I did not understand until I moved south why they always made Easter dresses so thin and frilly and gave you those little straw hats that melted in the snow because you had to wear a winter coat over it. What's the point? And then I moved south and went, oh, I get it. They actually have a season. But so we had a lot of botanical gardens to make up for that. And in Pittsburgh, the Phipps Conservatory, it's in one of those big Victorian actual glass houses. And I took Larry there, you know, on one of our first dates because it's just beautiful to wander through. It's got the orchid room and it's got, you know, all these, you know, amazing plants. And a lot of times they'll have, if you go on a weekend, they'll have like a cellist playing or, you know, something like that. Great place to snap pictures. And then when we lived in Richmond, there was the Ginter Botanical Garden. And that was a really nice place to go on like a Sunday afternoon because they had a little restaurant where you could get a light lunch and you could wander all the trails, and they had all the different themed areas of the garden. And no matter when you went in spring and summer, there were different things blooming, and it was just all laid out so beautifully. And here in North Carolina, the Biltmore Estate has fantastic gardens that are, something is blooming there year round. And they also have a conservatory. So they have these massive, in the spring, the tulips and the azaleas are just, you know, a riot of color. And then in the fall, they have the mums, but in the spring especially, everything is just so gorgeous. And to wander those paths and not really have an agenda and just be able to go look at things and go, well, isn't that pretty? Or, hey, let's take a selfie. You know, it's just kind of the perfect low pressure date, and get a snack and take it out and eat it on the lawn. And it's just, it's not as busy as being in the city at a cafe. It's not as, it's just a chance to kind of be. And that's sort of a test in a relationship. Do you have to be doing something super intensive busy? Or can you just kind of be quiet together and walk along a path, and that's okay? So yeah, I'm big on gardens for romantic spring dates. How about your characters? Do you have any romance set in the spring? It's okay if you don't, or, you know, can you think of a romance that you've seen, movie or something you've read that takes place in the spring? Carol?
I haven't had anything really set in the spring yet. I have one book has a big kind of romantic event in the fall, and I have a book coming out next month that in the spring and summer there's a big karate tournament. But that's not romantic unless you really like karate. But I remember reading a lot of romances. So when I was younger, I grew up on the old romance, like Victoria Holt, you know, Philippa Carr, Phyllis Whitney, that group. And they often would have, you know, like a lot of times things were set in little towns and villages and everything. And they would be like a spring market or a spring festival. And, you know, all the townspeople would come out, and, you know, the farmers would have wares out. And of course, the people who were living in the manor houses would have on their nice outdoor, you know, riding habits and things. And I always really liked that. Just that whole sense again of like throwing off the shackles of winter, taking back the outdoors and experiencing the joy of it. There's just a lot of freedom, you know, like you were saying, Gail, in terms of there's no agenda, that you can take a little time to simply be and exist. And that's just such a great feeling. And I love seeing that in books and everything, where even there, they've, you know, even the wealthy have their tasks and their obligations, but for, the day of the spring festival, they can just go out and enjoy the weather and their people and all of that. And that you don't have to wear big heavy woolen clothes anymore, and you can wear something just kind of pretty and light.
Okay, Layla?
I actually do have a book that is set in late spring. It is Babber Into My Heart from last year, and I do have a copy with me. And that is a part of the Pet Play by the Lake series. So those books came out in like May, and it was the late spring, where the lake was still a little too cold to go swimming in, but still nice to paddle around in. Which is another, I love being on the water. I love fishing, anything where I can go like just row around the lake. In fact, this is our first sunny day, and it rained so much yesterday that everything's so wet I couldn't get the kayak out today. But I'm hoping this week I can get the kayak out, get it down to the river, and maybe do a little paddling along, get it out to the pond. I Fall is actually my favorite season, but spring is like my next favorite season because it's not too hot. Most of the bugs are still, not out and about, and you can really get out. And because my Comet Lake books are shifters, it started in summer with book 1 and then has rotated all the way around so that book 6 that just came out is actually set in spring. And so there's going to be pups born. I've got 2 of them that are set in the spring. The one that just came out is early spring. So you're kind of seeing the late fall pups from the year before are just getting their first chance to wobble about and nose around when there's no snow on the ground. And then you're going to start seeing the couples from the later books with their pups in the next book that's coming. And that's going to be so much fun because it's still going to be spring at Comet Lake. There's still going to be all the plants and the butterflies and the bees. And let me tell you, if you thought Simba's pouncing lessons when they had Zazu turn around and Simba was pouncing him was funny, you are going to love seeing these little pups trying to catch grasshoppers, because they are literally, their first pouncing lesson is trying to pounce after those big green, they almost look like locusts. They're giant green grasshoppers, which we actually fish with from time to time here too.
Okay. Wow. I think Badlands and Treasure Trail series start in the spring. Both of those are set in beach towns, vacation towns, and they start in the first book right before the main season starts. So that's late spring. Spring break is over, but the summer crowd hasn't moved in yet. So it's still spring, still not as crowded as it's going to get. And in both of those series, you have new people moving into a resort vacation location and trying to get their feet under them before all the tourists swarm in and it gets really busy, and kind of try to figure out the lay of the land. And as they're doing that, it's a perfect time to meet somebody and figure out what's going on, and deal with some ghosts and mobsters, and maybe try not to get killed, as one does. But it's spring, and in a tourist town, that's especially an interesting time, because you've got some people, the town has woken back up after the winter, and you've got some people coming in, but after that spring break crush, then there's a little bit of a breath before the summer crush. And so that's kind of where both of those series begin. And it's just fun to see people get their feet under them in the spring and then meet some people and fall in love, as it should be. Is there a spring setting that you've thought about using in a book, but you haven't yet, or you'd like to, Carol?
So I used to go to the Outer Banks every May. For about 10 years, I did that. I absolutely love it. We would go down to where the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse is and stay there for a week. And then after a while, it turned into 2 weeks. And it's really wonderful because it isn't really busy yet. It's before Memorial Day, which is really, of course, the opening of the big season. So it would be warm, but then a little cool at night. So you could take your shorts and your tank tops, but you still had to take, a jacket for the, for the evening if you're going to go walk on the beach. And then it's not crowded or anything. And it is such a beautiful setting, the ocean, the beach, a lot of parts of it are still very unspoiled. There's certainly the northern part of the Outer Banks, like where Nag's Head is much more built up, much more touristy, much more packed. We went way below that, below the wild bird preserve that's there. And driving through that is really beautiful in the spring. And it's just, I would definitely want to have a story that's going to at least start there, if not even unfold there, because it is such a lovely, area, and brilliant blue skies, the rolling surf, and then at night, especially in a full moon, it's picture perfect. You couldn't ask for more. You have the full moon and the silvery light, and you have phosphorescence in the water, so the water might have a little nice glowy thing going on in the the white caps and everything, and it is just insanely beautiful. And so yeah, I would really am planning to set something there.
Okay. Layla.
Spring in Vermont. That is a setting that I haven't used yet, even though I lived up there for 4 years when I was in college. I love all of that beauty of the trees coming back to life, and the mountains are green anyway because of the evergreens, but when they really start getting the buds and everything, it's just beautiful to go hike those trails. And of course, hiking those trails and then getting in the car and go take a windy drive through the different towns, jump over to Maine, wind around by the ocean. I have some things in mind for that spring New England setting that I just haven't found the right couple and the right story for yet. So I'm looking forward to that. And also, I have several stories coming up where you've got the rocker characters and just leaving their winter locations where they've been writing and starting on those little mini spring tiny town festival, small town festival tours. I actually plan to go attend some of those myself and then kind of create the book after it. So looking forward to just seeing the spring themed pastries and the tea shops and the different things. Oh my gosh, spring, was it about 4 years ago? We went to a little college town in spring while most of the students were gone on spring break, so it was quiet. Found an organic vodka distillery. Yes. And they also make organic vinegars, different flavored vinegars. And we went taste test wild, just hog wild with the taste testing. So taking my characters through places like that, where they can bring little samples back and they can, just kind of spend that day on the road and spend that evening camping out around the campfire. Because that's really, my dad loved to take us camping. Like from the time it was warm enough to go and until the time it was too cold and not to be able to go, we would be camping on the weekends. And I think that'd be so much fun to just take these characters on this wandering road trip with the bikes and like the van and write music and check out these festivals and perform and eat all this good food and see all the local crafts and sites and just turn it into a whole experience.
Okay. Much along those same lines, I love theme parks. I love amusement parks. I grew up near one that sadly is gone now after 100 and some years, but it was the classic amusement park with the hand carved, hand painted carousel horses and all the classic rides, and it had a wooden coaster, and and the boardwalk fries. And if you walk down the midway, you got to the lake, and they had a beach. And that was just such a perfect place from the time it opened until the time it closed for the winter. Whether I was on a date or just out with girlfriends, that was a hangout place, because we'd get the fries, we'd walk up and down the midway, we'd play a couple of games of skee ball, we'd ride the rides. It was a perfect Saturday. And even better if you're there on a date and you can, snuggle up to them on the haunted house and slide into them on the scrambler. And then at night, when they turn the lights on, any of the imperfections, the places where, you can see the garbage bins or any of that, that all goes away, because now everything is all lit up, and it just kind of has this otherworldly feel to it, because all the rides are lit and there's music, and it's just, to me, that's very magical, whether it's an amusement park or fair. Most of the fairs are in the fall, but amusement parks open fairly early in the spring, depending on where you're located, if it's stopped snowing by then. And then, like you mentioned, the local festivals. When I was a grad student at Penn State, they always had an arts festival during the summer. And so that's a little later in the season because it was still snowing in the spring. But, you've got the tents with all kinds of art, whether it's wood carving or painting or glasswork or jewelry, and just this whole festival atmosphere, because there'd be live music and cotton candy and all kinds of food truck food. And it was nice enough finally to walk around and be outside and have all these special treats and look at these pretty things and listen to this music and sit on the lawn and just watch a band play. And to me, that is perfect date territory, because there's something to do. You're not stuck inside. You have plenty of options. And along with that are things like going to a place like Biltmore that has seasonal stuff. Whatever the season, there's something new. They'll have an exhibition of like period clothing from the early 1900s, or things from the Titanic, or all kinds of different reasons to go. But there are the gardens then, and they'll have festival tents set up with music. And I'm just a sucker for all of that, because it's a great excuse to be outside. I'm not really a sporty person, so I'm not going to go hiking. But if you tell me that there is a festival with music and food, I'm right there. I'll drive. Get in plenty of steps. Just don't make me hike a mountain unless you have a food truck at the top of the mountain. I might consider it, but probably not. So yeah, I'm right there for the festivals. I love the little cool festivals. I'm doing a book right now about a moose shifter, and there is a town that has a festival of the moose, and it is everything moose themed. It's got a website and everything else. It's a real place, but it's got a festival of the moose. And so you can't make some of this stuff up, and that's what I love, is there are these quirky little festivals, and then to have your characters have a meet cute at one of those, and hijinks ensue. To me, that's just a really fun way to bring the romance into the story. Well, believe it or not, guys, we've blown through our time. So before we wrap up, yeah, I know it always goes fast. But before we wrap up, let's go around and let everybody have a chance to say where we can find you online. And if you have a new, recent, or upcoming book, tell us about that. Carol?
You can find me as Carol and Stokes on Facebook and on many, many, many continual panels on various topics. As Ellis Colton, you can find all of my social media links and my newsletter sign up at elliscolton.card, CARRD.co. I have a new book up for pre-order coming. It'll be released in mid-May, but the pre-orders are live now for The Silver Dragon, a story of a teen crush turned to adult love amid a martial arts setting. So check it out. It's available on Amazon and Smashwords.
Very cool. Layla?
You can find me on almost every social media except X. I have got Wix website. I have my blog, Rainbow Lyrics and Mellow Mushrooms. I'm on Facebook all the time. I use Insta, though I need to get better with it. The same with TikTok. I even have Pinterest boards. As for upcoming, I have a release next month called Saint Sinner. It is book 3 of my Roland Jokers Motorcycle Club series. I also have some pre-order that's available for pre-order, but I also have a Pride Cruise pre-order called Seafoam and Saltwater Taffy that you can find on Amazon right now. I have a pre-order available for my Foggy Basin Small Town Romance coming later in the year, which is Twisted Chassis. That's also available for pre-order. And I have a mermaid shifter, well, not so much shifter, but merfolk story that is coming out later this year, and it might surprise, just pop up. There's no pre-order for it, but keep your eyes out for Lost Lord of the Dead Sea. That is coming soon. And as always, I know it's a little early, but it's never too early to tell you that Road to Rocktoberfest 2024 is coming. And I will have another book in that series. It'll be my 4th Rocktoberfest, and it is Broken Chorus.
I love
That's a lot
Road to
coming up. That's pretty
Oktoberfest.
cool. I've got a very friendly golden retriever here who is quite put out that I have not been talking exclusively.
Aww.
Let's see. The book I'm working on right now is part of my Fox Hollow Zodiac series, and that is the Moose Shifter and a Psychic Null. And so that is probably going to be out in a month or so, month and a half. Most recent one is Signs and Wonders in the Witchbane series. And there will be new stuff coming all along. So thank you so much. He keeps bouncing on me. Thank you.
I did forget one thing. I kicked myself. My most recent release, I actually have in my hand sitting right next to me. It is Be My Little Valentine Shanny Surprise. It was my Valentine release. And this is MMM. It is a poly daddy pet and little. So you can find that one out. It is available. And it is the start of a little Valentine trend. There will be a whole series of them next year. And hi, Mr. Golden Retriever, you're so handsome. You are just the cutest.
He's adorable.
He's just gotten tall enough that now he can poke his head up and everybody can see him. Well, folks, thank you so much for being amazing panelists. This has been a lot of fun. And thanks to everybody for watching and listening. I'm just getting pounced again. There will be more romance coming up soon on Continual, so we'll see you online.